What's up, y'all? It's your boy Ben Mahari here, representing Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. I know the NBA's offseason has been on fire. There's been a lot of stuff going on, but I'm going to take a minor break from that, and I wanted to particularly talk about a different subject in mind here. And this is going to be a boxing type of video. So I know this is going to be a video that's going to be in comparison between two great legends, and I'm going to try to make my analysis of this as I'm doing this video. But this week, I was, looking around and was watching over Roy Jones Jr. losing his mind and basically calling out Floyd Mayweather to a actual fight. Now, what precipitated that in the first place was the fact that Roy Jones Jr. for years was basically dissing Floyd Mayweather, pretty much ridiculing him, criticizing him for everything else in between. And what Floyd Mayweather did last week, in response, he didn't say anything, but he was on social media and lit up a huge inferno by basically posting a video and watching Roy Jones Jr. getting knocked smooth out by Antonio Tarver, Glenn Johnson, and a number of other journeyman type of opponents that he got knocked out from. You know what I'm saying? And what basically it was illustrating here is that with Floyd was showing him that between the skill set between him and Roy Jones was no comparison. Now, I wanted to give my 2 cents of the situation. Now, I want to make it very, very clear. I am not a fan of either fighter because of both their sellouts in different ways. You guys know that. So I suspect that you guys already know going in that I am not defending either person at all. But I want to make my analysis about the situation. And the reason why I'm doing this is because the last couple of days, I've been actually watching old fights of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Roy Jones Jr. And I was making an analysis in my head between the two fighters. How would they pair up with one another? Now, I think a lot of the jealousy from Roy stems from the fact that he was not able to build up the huge generational wealth that Floyd Mayweather was able to build during his boxing career. Now, we both know both these guys are Hall of Fame type fighters. All right, they're both in the Hall of Fame. Their legacies are set in stone. But there is a lot of regret on Roy's particular end of things that I think that is coming out in a lot of the things that Roy's been talking about. Because last time I checked, Floyd Mayweather hasn't said much about Roy Jones Jr. in any type of derogatory way, except for obviously the video that he posted on his social media, of course. But when I'm looking at these two fighters here, we all know that Roy Jones Jr. in his heyday in the 90s was the most electrifying boxer we've ever seen. A boxer that was pretty much orthodox. He was awkward, but more importantly, he possessed unique abilities. He possessed speed, quickness, athleticism, raw power. This guy was literally making guys look foolish. I mean, the guy was pretty much from 154 to middleweight to 168, and from 175 to cruiserweight to heavyweight, the man was making moves all over the place in the ring. And the only blemish on that record during that time was that bogus disqualification against Montel Griffin. And I think a part of Roy Jones stems from the fact that he got a bogus disqualification, and even though he was able to avenge that loss, he never really got over that. And I think it really ate at him through the majority of his career. But as I'm going to continue to talk about, the one thing that I think that Roy kind of regrets more than anything else is that he kind of regrets to the fact that he stayed too long. He stayed too long when it was time for him to just move on from boxing. I mean, the man, back in 2002 to 2003, he made a crazy move that was pretty much unprecedented in boxing. He moved up from light heavyweight when he was dominating everybody at light heavyweight. He dominated. He was undisputed at light heavyweight, something that Floyd was never able to do, become undisputed in any weight class. But the thing is that RJ made the courageous move to move up to heavyweight to face against John Ruiz, which was a tactical move on his part because John Ruiz was not known as a knockout type of a fighter. He was a guy who was probably simple 1-2 grab. He was just a boring fighter in the ring, to the definition of that. And Roy showed his greatness in the ring, and became the first fighter to to come up from light heavyweight, just like Michael Spinks, and then win a heavyweight championship at heavyweight. But the biggest regret I think Roy still has to this day is that he moved back down all the way to light heavyweight and fought against Antonio Tarver. What I tell you right now, guys, moving down in weight, especially losing all that muscle mass and weight as you come up from heavyweight and now you're moving all the way back down to light heavyweight, he puts a huge strain on the body. I don't care who you are. And when I was watching the Tarver fights, the speed and quickness that he once had was no longer existent. And Roy had to grit down and beat Antonio Tarver in a very close decision. And Roy was trying to pursue fights like Evander Holyfield, pursue fights with Mike Tyson, because at that time, those guys were on the decline and they were pretty much going towards the end of their careers. So the heavyweight division was pretty much wide open at this point. But Roy made the tactical mistake of taking the rematch again with Antonio Tarver. He pretty much listened to all of the critics of that fight and took the rematch. And unfortunately, Tarver caught him with a good shot. He timed him beautifully, caught him with the left hand, and knocked Roy out. And that was the beginning of the end for Roy Jones Jr. And when he got knocked out cold by Glenn Johnson, it was a signal to everybody that what Roy Jones once was in the 90s was no more, because he relied too heavily on his athletic abilities and his unique God-given gifts instead of working on his boxing craft and his ability to set people up in the ring. That's one of the things that Floyd Mayweather was so good at his time. Even when his athleticism began to deteriorate, he always had this sense of IQ to know how to defend, know how to use his ring skills, and know how to set people up. And people talked about the fact how, Floyd didn't have no power. Well, let me tell you this. Pretty boy Floyd, from 125 to 130 to 135, was a killer. The dude was knocking dudes out. He was the most avoidable fighter at that period of time within the 2000s. All right? Nobody wanted anything to do with this guy. You know what I'm saying? He knocked out Gennaro Hernandez, Diego Corrales, beat Jose Luis Castillo twice. All right? He moved up, whooped the shit out of Arturo Gatti. All right? He embarrassed Zab Judah. I mean, the guy was pretty much embarrassing dudes all over the place up until he went up against Oscar De La Hoya and cemented his legacy as a pay-per-view star. That's when the Money Mayweather moniker arrived. And because of that, Floyd Mayweather was able to use the people's hatred and racism to basically fill his pockets. And he was able to get rich off of it. And he pretty much showed again that no matter what style of fighter that he went up against, he was always able to make the proper adjustments and make them look really, really bad. And I think part of Roy's animosity with that is that the fact that he was never able to have that kind of unique boxing IQ and never enhanced his craft during any point of his career. That's why he was getting knocked out silly so many times. And if you put those two fighters together, and I'm going to put it in a fantasy type of situation, if you put Roy Jones Jr. and Floyd Mayweather at 154 pounds, and you ask me who would I take in that situation, I would take Floyd Mayweather 10 times out of 10. I trust Floyd Mayweather's, defense, his 1-2 punching, his crisp counter punching, and more importantly, he would know how to make Roy Jones look like a damn fool. Roy would not know what to do, and basically he would embarrass Roy Jones, literally and figuratively. Now, I know that Roy Jones has that amazing quickness and raw athletic power, but by that time, as he got older, all those athletic skills began to diminish. It's one of the reasons why Bernard Hopkins was able to become successful despite the fact that he didn't have that same power that he once had anymore. But Bernard always had that essential basic craft and fundamentals, and he always maintained his shape. That was one of the problems why Roy Jones Jr. never fulfilled his later potential after he got knocked out twice by both Tarver and Johnson. And so I think a lot of it is jealousy. I think a lot of it from Roy's end is due with envy, and pretty much Floyd Mayweather put him in his place and pretty much showed what Roy was after he got knocked out by Glenn Johnson and Antonio Tarver. He was never the same fighter again people just recognize that without those athletic gifts, Roy Jones was pretty much an ordinary fighter. That's just who he was. So, and the other thing that really annoyed me was that, Roy Jones had the audacity to pretty much call out Floyd Mayweather pretty much for a fight. Like, the dude is about 50 years old. Both of these guys are at their advanced ages. You know what I'm saying? If Floyd wanted to, Floyd could pretty much come out of retirement and beat the guy up for free. It's like listening to, Riddick Bowe calling out Lennox Lewis like 15 to 20 years later after Riddick Bowe threw away the WBC belt and refused to fight against Lennox Lewis. And now you already have second thoughts like decades after the fact, and now you want to turn around and want to call out the dude when you basically are old and way past your prime. Man, get out of here, bro. Like, Roy needs to sit down somewhere. Seriously. For the same guy that basically is now a Russian citizen, like, dude, shut up. Like, just sit your old ass down somewhere, bro. Like, your days in boxing are done, bro. Your speech is slurred now. Your reflexes are far slower now. You're at an old stage in your life now where your days in boxing are pretty much done. They're over with, bro. Like, sit down somewhere, Roy. And Floyd doesn't even have to worry about that at all, because at the end of the day, Floyd is already, making his money and doing what he wants to do. You know what I'm saying? You can say whatever you want to say about Floyd, and I wouldn't argue with you, because the dude is a lot of things. But one thing is for certain with Floyd. Floyd, when it came down to boxing, was at the top of the list when it came to IQ, when it came to defense, punching, cutting the ring off, ring generalship, the whole 100 yards. The guy was a pure boxing technician, and Roy wasn't. That's just simply the fact of the matter. Roy Jones was a great fighter in terms of his athletic ability, and when he was during the 90s, he could not be touched because of his quickness, speed, and athleticism. But when all those things began to fade away as he got older, you saw what he was. He was easily getting knocked out by other top contenders and by unknown journeyman fighters. That's the legacy that Roy Jones left behind. And unfortunately, he never accepted the fact that he was not the same fighter anymore. And then he continued on fighting for no reason. He kept getting knocked out. He kept getting embarrassed silly. You know what I mean? He basically tarnished what he built because he just could not accept the fact that he wasn't the same fighter anymore. At least with Floyd, he knew when time was up after he achieved his 50-0 record. Even though you can say that I wish he could stop doing these exhibition fights, at the end of the day, people are going to revere more the Floyd Mayweather than they're going to revere Roy Jones Jr. If you're not a huge diehard boxing fan, you would not know who Roy Jones is. And that's just the fact of the matter. And I think that there's a part of Roy Jones that feels animus of the fact that he could have had that kind of legacy if he didn't make those kind of decisions, and if he could have taken care of his body a little bit better. Unlike with Floyd, one thing about Floyd is Floyd always took care of his body. He always made sure he stayed in premium shape. He didn't smoke. He didn't do any drugs. He didn't do any of those, crazy stuff to his body. He always stayed in shape. He always committed to his craft. And that's why he was able to have success in boxing even after he retired. That's just pretty much what it is. And Floyd can be rest under the fact that he gave everything he had in the ring and he achieved it all. Something that Roy Jones, unfortunately, never did. And I think that's, again, a lot of it from Roy is just jealousy and envy and basically much a lot of regret because he feels that he could have had the same kind of success that Floyd did. So I know I gave my whole analysis of the thing. So I'm interested in what you guys think. What do you guys think? Do you think there's a lot of regret on Roy's end? And do you believe that if those two would have fought against one another, how would you guys look at it? How would you guys think how it would go? And more importantly, if Roy did not move up to heavyweight, if he would have stayed at heavyweight, what do you think his legacy could have been if he would have just after he beat Ruiz, do you think he should have retired after that? So let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'm interested in what you guys have to think about this whole situation. All right? Take care, guys. Peace.